The alarm bells rang through the ship like screaming metal. Dr. Amy Rodriguez dropped her coffee cup and ran toward the bridge of the UES Frontier. She had been studying star charts in her lab when the emergency signal started. Her heart pounded as she moved through the narrow hallways. "What's happening?" Amy asked Captain Lisa Morgan when she reached the bridge. "We've got a crash landing on the planet below," Captain Morgan said, pointing at the main screen. "Something big just came, down hard about 50 miles from our survey camp." Amy looked at the screen and saw smoke rising from a massive crater. The ship that had crashed was huge, maybe 3 times the size of their own vessel. It was dark metal with strange symbols carved into its hull. She had never seen anything like it before. "Is it one of ours?" Amy asked. "No," said Lieutenant Commander Steve Davis from his station. "The design is completely unknown. The metal composition doesn't match anything in our database. I think we're looking at something alien." Amy felt her stomach flip. In all her years as a xenobiologist, she had studied the possibility of alien life, but she had never expected to actually encounter it. The human race had been exploring space for over a century and had found planets with simple life forms, but never anything intelligent. "Are there any life signs?" Captain Morgan asked. "Scanning now," Davis replied, his fingers moving quickly over his controls. "I'm reading one very faint biosignature. Whatever it is, it's barely alive." Amy stepped forward. "Captain, I need to get down there. If there's an alien life form, I'm the only one on this ship qualified to make first contact." Captain Morgan shook her head. "Too dangerous. We don't know what we're dealing with. It could be hostile." "It's dying," Amy said. "The biosignature is getting weaker. If we wait, we might lose the first chance humanity has ever had to meet another intelligent species." The captain stared at the screen for a long moment. The smoke was getting thicker, and Amy could see small explosions happening around the crash site. Whatever had crashed was breaking apart. "Fine," Captain Morgan said. "But you take a full security team, and Dr. Carter goes with you." An hour later, Amy stood at the edge of the crater wearing a full environmental suit. The alien ship was even more impressive up close. It was covered in burn marks and holes where debris had torn through the hull. The metal looked like it was made of silver and black mixed together, creating patterns that seemed to move when she looked at them. Dr. Ben Carter checked his scanner. "Atmosphere inside the ship is toxic to humans, but breathable for whatever crashed here. The life sign is coming from the central section." Amy nodded and followed the security team through a hole in the ship's side. Inside, the corridors were tall and wide, built for something much larger than humans. Strange lights flickered along the walls, casting blue and green shadows everywhere. They found the alien in what looked like a command center. Amy stopped breathing when she saw it. The creature was huge, at least 7 feet tall even lying down. Its skin was silver blue like polished metal, and it had a humanoid shape with 2 arms, 2 legs, and a head. But everything about it was bigger and stronger than a human. Its chest rose and fell slowly, and Amy could see dark liquid leaking from several wounds. "My God," Dr. Carter whispered. "It's actually real." Amy approached carefully. The alien's eyes were closed, but she could see they were larger than human eyes with a different shape. Its face was angular with sharp cheekbones and a strong jaw. Despite being alien, there was something almost familiar about it. "The bio readings are getting worse," Carter said. "Internal bleeding, organ failure, and some kind of toxin in its system. I don't think our medical equipment will work on its physiology." Amy knelt beside the alien and opened her scanner. The readings were unlike anything she had ever seen. The creature's blood wasn't red like human blood. Instead, it was a dark metallic liquid that seemed to carry electrical currents. Its heart was beating very slowly, and its brain activity was almost gone. "We need to get it back to the ship," Amy said. "Amy, be reasonable," Carter replied. "We don't have the first idea how to treat an alien. Our medicines could kill it faster than its injuries." Amy studied her scanner readings more carefully. There was something strange about the alien's cellular structure. The quantum signatures looked almost familiar, like they might be compatible with human biology in some impossible way. "Ben, look at these readings," she said, showing him her scanner. The cellular quantum frequency is almost identical to human cells. I think there might be a way to help it. Back on the frontier, Amy worked frantically in the medical bay, while the alien lay unconscious on the examination table. Captain Morgan paced back and forth, clearly worried about having an unknown life form on her ship. "How is it?" the captain asked. "Dying," Amy replied without looking up from her instruments. "Its blood system is completely different from ours. Instead of carrying oxygen, it carries some kind of liquid metal that powers its enhanced physiology. The crash damaged its internal organs, and the metal is leaking into places where it shouldn't be." Dr. Carter shook his head. "There's nothing we can do. We don't understand its biology well enough to perform surgery, and we don't have compatible blood for transfusions." Amy paused her work. An idea was forming in her mind, but it was crazy and dangerous. She looked at her scanner readings again, focusing on the quantum cellular frequencies. "What if we could make compatible blood?" she said quietly. "What do you mean?" Carter asked. "The quantum signatures of its cells are almost identical to human cells. Theoretically, if we could synchronize the frequencies, human blood might be able to substitute for its metallic blood system temporarily." Captain Morgan stepped forward. "You're talking about giving human blood to an alien? That's impossible. And even if it worked, it could be incredibly dangerous for whoever donates." Amy looked at the alien's face. Even unconscious and dying, there was something noble about its features. She made a decision that would change everything. "I'll do it," she said. "Amy, no," Carter protested. "We have no idea what could happen. The alien biology could reject your blood, or worse, your blood could be toxic to it. And we don't know what effect its metallic blood could have on your system." "It's dying," Amy said firmly. "And this might be our only chance to save the first intelligent alien life humanity has ever encountered. I'm willing to take the risk." Captain Morgan grabbed Amy's arm. "I can't let you do this. It's too dangerous." Amy pulled free. "With respect, Captain, this is a medical decision. And as the Chief Medical Officer for Xenobiology, it's my call to make." Amy quickly prepared the blood transfusion equipment, modifying it with nanites that could help synchronize the quantum frequencies between human and alien blood. Her hand shook as she inserted the IV line into her own arm, and then carefully found a vein in the alien's arm. The alien's skin was warm, but felt different from human skin, more like flexible metal. As soon as Amy's blood began flowing into the alien system, she felt a strange tingling sensation. At first, nothing happened. Then the alien's vital signs began to improve. Its heart rate increased and its brain activity started to spike. Amy felt dizzy as more of her blood flowed into the creature. Suddenly, the alien's eyes snapped open. They were bright silver with flecks of blue, and they stared directly at Amy. But what shocked her most was that she could sense something from the alien. It wasn't just looking at her. It was somehow aware of her thoughts. The alien tried to speak, but only managed a low sound that vibrated through Amy's bones. Then something incredible happened. Amy began to understand what it was trying to communicate, not through words, but through direct mental contact. The alien was grateful. It was also surprised, and it was sharing something with Amy that made her gasp. Through their blood connection, she could see images and memories that weren't her own. She saw vast fleets of ships, terrible battles, and something dark and hungry pursuing them across the stars. Amy realized that saving this alien's life was just the beginning. The blood she had shared had created a connection between them that would change both their species forever. Amy woke up 3 days later in the medical bay. Her head felt heavy and her body ached like she'd been running for hours. Dr. Carter was sitting next to her bed, checking readings on a medical scanner. "How do you feel?" he asked when he saw her eyes open. "Strange," Amy replied honestly. "Like I'm not completely myself anymore." Carter nodded with concern. "Your blood chemistry has changed. The alien blood mixed with yours in ways we didn't expect. Your red blood cell count is higher. Your brain activity is different, and you're showing enhanced physical responses." Amy sat up slowly. Across the room, she could see the alien warrior sitting on another medical bed. He was awake and watching her with those silver blue eyes. When their eyes met, Amy felt a jolt of connection, She could sense his thoughts and emotions as clearly as her own. "His name is Vex," she said without thinking. "Commander Vex Thaloran of the Kethvar Empire." Carter stared at her. "How do you know that?" Amy touched her forehead. "I can feel his memories, just like he can feel mine. The blood transfusion created some kind of mental link between us." Vex stood up from his bed. He was even taller than Amy had thought, and his movements were smooth and controlled like a trained fighter. When he spoke, his voice was deep and had a strange accent. "Dr. Rodriguez," he said carefully, pronouncing her name with difficulty. "I owe you my life, but I must tell you something important. Something that will change everything for your people." "Captain." Morgan entered the medical bay with 2 security guards. She looked nervous about having the alien awake and moving around. "Is it safe to talk to him?" she asked. Amy nodded. "His name is Vex. He's a military commander, and he wants to help us understand something important." Vex looked at all of them, and then focused on Amy. Through their mental connection, she could feel his sadness and fear. "My people are not conquerors by choice," Vex began. "We are running from something terrible, something that destroys entire worlds and turns their people into slaves." Amy felt images flowing into her mind from Vex's memories. She saw massive dark ships that looked like they were made of bone and metal mixed together. She saw planets burning and cities falling. She saw people of different species being captured and changed into something horrible. "What are you running from?" Captain Morgan asked. "The void spawn," Vex replied. "They are parasites that take over technology and living beings. They consume everything and leave nothing behind except more of themselves. My people have been fighting them for over 1,000 years." Amy grabbed Vex's arm as more memories flooded her mind. She saw the Kethvar Empire conquering world after world, but not to rule them. They were trying to prepare each planet for war, building defenses and training armies to fight the void spawn. "You're not invaders," Amy said, understanding filling her voice. "You're trying to save everyone." Vex nodded sadly. "We conquer quickly because we must. The void spawn are always behind us. Every world we take, we fortify. Every population we control, we train for battle. It is the only way to survive." Aranyoy. Morgan stepped forward. "What does this have to do with Earth?" Vex looked directly at her. Through Amy, he could access her memories and knowledge of human space. "Your solar system is directly in their path. The void spawn scouts will arrive in your space within 6 months. The main invasion force will follow in less than 2 years. Amy felt cold fear spreading through her chest. "How many ships do they have?" "More than all the stars you can see in your night sky," Vex replied. "They have consumed hundreds of civilizations. Their fleet grows larger with every world they take." Dr. Carter spoke up. "If they're so powerful, how have your people survived for 1,000 years?" "By running and fighting," Vex said. "We are strong warriors and our technology is advanced, but we are not enough to stop them. We can only slow them down." Amy felt Vex's emotions through their connection. He was tired of running and fighting. His people were dying slowly, losing a little more with each battle. But something has changed. Vex continued, looking at Amy. "Your blood, Dr. Rodriguez. It has properties that we never imagined possible." "What do you mean?" Amy asked. Vex touched his chest where the transfusion had saved his life. "Kethvar blood carries liquid metal that enhances our strength and speed. But your human blood carries something different. Quantum particles that exist in a state we cannot create artificially." Amy felt confused. "I don't understand." "The void spawn control their victims through parasitic infection," Vex explained. "They attach to the nervous system and override the host's will. But the quantum particles in human blood create interference. They disrupt the parasitic connection." Captain Morgan leaned forward. "Are you saying human blood can fight off these parasites?" "More than that," Vex replied. "Through our blood connection, Dr. Rodriguez has gained enhanced physical abilities from my Kethvar blood, and I have gained resistance to void spawn infection from her human blood. Together we are stronger than either species alone." Amy stood up and was surprised by how good she felt. Her body was stronger and faster than before. Her mind was clearer, and she could process information much quicker. She looked at her hands and realized they were steadier and more precise. "This is incredible," she said. "But what does it mean for Earth?" Vex's expression became serious. "It means your people might be the key to stopping the void spawn forever, but only if we can create an alliance between our species." Captain Morgan shook her head. "The Kethvar Empire has a reputation for conquest. How do we know this isn't a trick?" Amy could feel Vex's honest intentions through their connection. "He's telling the truth. I can sense his thoughts and emotions. He genuinely wants to help us." "The choice is simple," Vex said. "We can conquer your world quickly and prepare your people for war, as we have done with every other species. Or we can work together as equals, combining Kethvar strength with human biological advantages." Amy suddenly felt a spike of alarm from Vex. He was sensing something through their connection that she couldn't understand. "What is it?" she asked. Vex closed his eyes and concentrated. "Ships, moving very fast toward your solar system. The quantum signature is wrong. It's not Kethvar." Captain Morgan activated her communicator. "Bridge, this is the captain. Are we detecting any incoming ships?" Lieutenant Davis's voice came through the speaker. "Captain, we're picking up strange energy readings at the edge of the solar system. Multiple contacts moving at impossible speeds." Amy felt Vex's fear spike through their connection. "They're here," he said quietly. "The Void Spawn scouts have arrived early." "How is that possible?" Amy asked. "My ship's crash must have sent a distress signal," Vex replied. "They track all Kethvar vessels. When they detected my ship's location, they sent scouts to investigate." Captain Morgan was already moving toward the door. "We need to contact Earth Command immediately." "Wait," Amy said, grabbing the captain's arm. "If Vex is right about human blood being able to fight the void spawn, we need to test it before they arrive." Vex nodded. "The scouts will try to capture humans for study. If they learn about your quantum blood properties, they will call for a massive invasion force." Amy looked at Dr. Carter. "We need to set up more blood exchange procedures. If the connection between human and Kethvar blood can create resistance to the parasites, we need to create more bonded pairs." "That's extremely dangerous," Carter protested. "We don't know the long-term effects of mixing alien and human blood." "We don't have time to find out," Amy replied. "If those scouts reach Earth, billions of people will die." Captain Morgan stopped at the door. "How long do we have?" Vex closed his eyes and seemed to listen to something only he could hear. "The scouts are fast, but they're being careful. They don't want to alert your people yet. Maybe 3 days before they reach Earth's orbit." Amy felt a strange confidence flowing through her from Vex's warrior training. "Then we have 3 days to figure out how to save humanity." Through their blood connection, she could sense Vex's respect for her determination. He had seen many species face the void spawn threat, but none had shown the quick thinking and courage that humans were displaying. "Dr. Rodriguez," Vex said formally, "I pledge the honor of my warrior clan to your cause. Together, our peoples will stand against the darkness." Amy nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. She had shared her blood with an alien warrior to save his life, but now she realized she might have saved both their entire species. 2 days later, everything changed. Amy was in the medical bay helping Dr. Carter prepare blood exchange equipment when alarms started screaming throughout the ship. She could feel Vex's sudden alert through their mental connection before Captain Morgan's voice came over the speakers. "All hands to battle stations. We have incoming ships. Unknown configuration." Amy and Vex ran to the bridge together. Amy was still amazed at how much stronger and faster she had become since the blood exchange. She could keep up with Vex's long strides without getting tired. On the main screen, Amy saw ships that made her stomach turn. They looked like they were grown instead of built, with twisted metal and bone-like structures. Dark energy pulsed along, their hulls like infected veins. "Void spawn scouts," Vex said grimly. 3 ships. They're scanning for life forms." Captain Morgan turned to them. How dangerous are they? Very, Vex replied. Each scout ship carries parasites that can take over your technology and crew. If they get aboard any human vessel, they will learn everything about your species. Amy watched the alien ships moving, in strange patterns around the human fleet. What are they doing? Testing your defenses, Vex said. They want to see how advanced human technology is before they attack. Suddenly another alarm sounded. Lieutenant Davis called out from his station. Captain, we have another ship coming in fast. It's huge. On the screen, a massive human warship dropped out of hyperspace. It was twice the size of the Frontier and, bristling with weapons. Amy recognized it immediately from the military databases. That's the UES Defender, Captain Morgan said. Admiral Kane Harrison's flagship. The Defender's communication channel opened, and a stern-faced man in a military uniform appeared on the screen. Admiral Harrison had gray hair and cold blue eyes that looked like they had seen too many battles. Captain Morgan, Admiral Harrison said, you will immediately surrender the alien creature to my custody. Earth Command has ordered its capture for study. Amy stepped forward. Admiral, you don't understand. The alien is trying to help us. There's a much bigger threat coming. Admiral Harrison's eyes focused on Amy. Dr. Rodriguez, you have been infected by alien influence. You will also be taken into custody for medical examination and debriefing. Admiral, listen to me, Amy said urgently. Those ships out there aren't human. They're scouts for an invasion force that will destroy Earth if we don't work together. With the Kethvar. The what? Harrison asked. Vex stepped into view of the communication screen. Admiral Harrison's expression hardened when he saw the tall alien figure. I am Commander Vex Thalarin, Vex said formally. My people have been fighting the Void Spawn for 1,000 years. Your world is in immediate danger. I don't negotiate with aliens, Harrison replied coldly. Surrender now, or I will take you. By force. That was when the Void Spawn attacked. The 3 scout ships moved with impossible speed, launching weapons that looked like living creatures. The projectiles attached themselves to the Defender's hull and began eating through the metal. Like acid, defensive fire, Admiral Harrison shouted. The Defender's weapons fired at the Void Spawn ships, but the energy beams seemed to bend around them without causing damage. The alien vessels continued their attack, and Amy watched in horror as parts of the human warship began to change color and texture. They're converting the ship, Vex said. The parasites are taking over the Defender's systems. Amy felt panic rising in her chest. What can we do? Vex ran to the weapons console. Your energy weapons won't work against them, but if we can modify them with quantum disruption from human blood, we might be able to hurt them. Dr. Carter, who had followed them to the bridge, looked confused. How do we do that? Amy understood immediately through her connection with Vex. We use my blood. The quantum particles in it can disrupt their control systems. Captain Morgan shook her head. Amy, that sounds incredibly dangerous. Not just Amy's blood, Vex said. We need volunteers from your crew. The more human blood we can process through Kethvar biotechnology, the more powerful the disruption field will be. Amy looked around the bridge. I'll do it, but I need others. To help, Lieutenant Davis stepped forward. I volunteer. So do I, said Chief Engineer Paula Martinez from her station. Within minutes, 6 crew members had volunteered to provide blood for the quantum disruption weapons. Dr. Carter set up emergency transfusion equipment while Vex used his knowledge of Kethvar technology to modify the Frontier's weapons systems. Amy was the first to connect to the modified system. She felt her blood being drawn out and processed through alien biotechnology before being channeled into the ship's weapon arrays. The sensation was strange, but not painful. How do you feel? Dr. Carter asked. Different, Amy replied. Stronger, like I'm connected to the ship itself. The other volunteers went through the same process. Each person who contributed blood to the system reported feeling enhanced strength and mental clarity. Amy realized that the human Kethvar biological connection was even more powerful than they had thought. Weapons are ready, Vex announced. Captain Morgan targeted the nearest Void Spawn ship. Fire. The modified energy beam lanced out from the frontier and struck the alien vessel. Instead of bending around it, the beam cut through the ship's hull like a knife through paper. The void spawn ship exploded in a burst of dark energy. "It worked," Lieutenant Davis shouted, but their celebration was short-lived. The remaining two void spawn ships turned their attention to the frontier. At the same time, Amy could see that the Defender was in serious trouble. Large sections of the warship had been converted, and it was starting to fire on human positions. "The parasites have taken partial control of Admiral Harrison's ship," Vex explained. "Soon they will have access to all human military databases." Amy made another decision that would change everything. "Captain, we need to help the Defender. If the Void Spawn learn about Earth's defenses, they'll call for a full invasion." Captain Morgan nodded. "All weapons, target the parasites on the Defender's hull." The Frontier's quantum-enhanced weapons fired repeatedly at the infected sections of the larger warship. Each hit destroyed clusters of parasites and freed parts of the ship from alien control. Admiral Harrison's face appeared on the communication screen again. This time he looked shaken and confused. "What just happened?" he asked. "My ship was attacking my own people and I couldn't stop it." "Void spawn parasites," Amy explained quickly. "They took over your systems. We used human blood enhanced with alien biotechnology to drive them off." Harrison stared at her. "Human blood? What are you talking about?" Vex stepped forward. "Admiral, your species has unique quantum properties in your blood that can disrupt void spawn control. Combined with Kethvar enhancement technology, it creates a powerful weapon against them." The two remaining void spawn ships regrouped and prepared for another attack. Amy could feel through her connection with Vex that these ships were preparing to send a message to the main invasion fleet. "We have to stop them from communicating," Amy said urgently. Both human ships fired their quantum-enhanced weapons simultaneously. The void spawn scouts were destroyed in brilliant explosions, but Amy felt a cold dread through her connection. With Vex, "They got a message through," he said quietly. A brief transmission, but enough to alert the main fleet. Admiral Harrison's expression was grim. "How long do we have?" 6 months, Vex replied. "Maybe less. The main invasion force will mobilize immediately." Amy looked at both ship captains. "Then we need to prepare Earth for war, and we need to do it together." Admiral Harrison was quiet for a long moment. Finally, he spoke. "Dr. Rodriguez, what you've shown me today changes everything. If human blood can really fight these parasites, then we need to explore this alliance." Amy felt hope rising in her chest. "Admiral, I propose a formal partnership between Earth and the Kethvar Empire. We provide volunteers for blood enhancement programs, and they provide military technology and training." Vex nodded approvingly. "My people have never encountered a species that could fight the void spawn effectively. This alliance could save both our civilizations." Harrison activated his communication system. "I'm sending a priority message to Earth Command. We're going to need every available ship and volunteer." Amy realized that her decision to save one alien warrior had led to humanity's first interstellar alliance. The blood she had shared with Vex was about to become the foundation for Earth's defense against the greatest threat in the galaxy. Through their mental connection, she could feel Vex's pride in humanity's courage and determination. For the first time in 1,000 years, the Kethvar had found allies who could truly help them fight the darkness. 6 months later, Amy could barely recognize the solar system she had known all her life. As she stood on the observation deck of the UES Unity, she watched massive Kethvar battle stations moving into position around Mars. Human and alien ships worked together in the asteroid belt, building weapons and defenses that would have been impossible for either species alone. Amy touched the communication device implanted behind her ear, another piece of Kethvar technology that let her stay connected to Vex even when they were on different ships. Their blood bond had grown stronger over the months, and now they could share thoughts and feelings across vast distances. "How are the new volunteers doing?" she asked through their mental link. Vex's response came immediately into her mind. "Better than expected. The humans adapt to the blood bonding process much faster than any species we have encountered before." Amy smiled. It was true. Over the past 6 months, more than 10,000 humans had volunteered for the blood bonding program. Each volunteer was paired with a HFY warrior, creating enhanced soldiers who were stronger, faster, and smarter than either species could be alone. Dr. Carter entered the observation deck carrying a data pad. He looked tired but excited. "Amy, you need to see the latest test results." Amy took the pad and read the numbers. Her eyes widened. "These enhancement levels are incredible. The bonded pairs are performing 50% better than our original projections." "It gets better," Carter said. "The psychological integration is working perfectly. Dr. Nancy Price's mental conditioning techniques are helping the bonded pairs maintain their individual personalities while maximizing their cooperative abilities." Through the large windows, Amy could see training exercises happening in space. Human HFY teams were practicing combat maneuvers in modified fighters that combined the best of both technologies. She watched a squadron led by Sergeant Jake Sullivan and his bonded partner, a HFY warrior named Zara Kolthek. Jake and Zara moved their fighter through impossible turns and twists, their combined reflexes allowing them to outfly anything Amy had seen before. Other bonded pairs followed them in perfect formation, their mental connections letting them coordinate without radio communication. "The pilot program is even more impressive," Carter continued. "Christina Hayes and her partner Dex Vorthol just broke every speed record in the books. Their hybrid fighters can travel faster than pure HFY ships and are more maneuverable than human vessels." Amy felt proud of what they had accomplished. The alliance between humans and HFY had become something beautiful. Instead of conquest, it had become true partnership, but she also felt the constant weight of fear. Through her connection with Vex, she knew the Void Spawn main fleet was getting closer every day. Long-range sensors had detected the first wave of enemy ships entering the outer edges of the solar system. "Amy," came Vex's voice in her mind. "Admiral Harrison wants to see us on the Unity's bridge. The enemy ships are accelerating." Amy ran through the corridors of the Unity, the hybrid command vessel that represented the best of human and HFY engineering. The ship was controlled by dozens of bonded pairs working together, their combined consciousness making it the most advanced vessel in known space. On the bridge, Admiral Harrison stood studying tactical displays with Captain Morgan and several HFY commanders. Harrison had changed over the past months. The blood bonding program had affected him too, even though he hadn't undergone the full procedure. Just being around so many enhanced humans had improved his reflexes and decision-making abilities. "What's the situation?" Amy asked. Harrison pointed to the main screen, which showed hundreds of red dots moving toward Earth. "The first wave is larger than we expected. Over 300 ships, including some massive carriers that our sensors can't fully analyze." Amy felt Vex arrive on the bridge behind her. Their connection immediately intensified, and she could access his military knowledge and tactical experience. "Those large ships are world carriers," Vex said grimly. "Each one contains the converted population of an entire planet. Millions of enslaved beings who will be used as soldiers against us." "How many people are we talking about?" Captain Morgan asked. "Perhaps 50 million converted slaves in the first wave alone," Vex replied. "The Void Spawn don't just destroy civilizations. They turn them into weapons." Amy felt sick thinking about millions of innocent people being controlled by the parasites. "Is there any way to free them?" "The quantum disruption from human blood can break the parasitic control," Vex said. "But it requires direct contact or very close range. We would need to board the carrier ships and expose the slaves to enhanced human blood." Admiral Harrison shook his head. "That's a suicide mission. Those ships will be heavily defended." Amy studied the tactical display. An idea was forming in her mind, something that came from both her own knowledge and Vex's tactical training through their blood bond. "What if we don't try to board them?" she said. "What if we can create a large enough quantum field to affect multiple ships at once?" Dr. Carter, who had been listening quietly, stepped forward. "Amy, you're talking about a massive coordinated blood enhancement. We would need hundreds of bonded pairs working together simultaneously. We have over 10,000 bonded pairs now," Amy replied. If we could synchronize their blood exchange processes, we might be able to create a quantum resonance field large enough to affect the entire enemy fleet. Vex's excitement flowed through their connection. It could work, but the process would be extremely dangerous for everyone involved. The quantum resonance could overload the human nervous system. Amy looked around the bridge at all the faces staring at her. Human and Kethavar officers worked side by side, their alliance having grown into something like a family over the past months. "How dangerous?" Admiral Harrison asked. "Potentially fatal," Vex replied honestly. The amount of quantum energy required would push every bonded pair beyond their physical limits. Amy felt a strange calm settling over her. Through her connection with Vex, she could access the memories and experiences of thousands of Kethvar warriors who had died fighting the Void Spawn. They had all been willing to sacrifice everything to protect others. "I'll do it," she said, quietly. "Amy, no," Dr. Carter protested. "We don't know if you would survive the process." "We don't have a choice," Amy replied. "If that fleet reaches Earth, billions of people will die or be enslaved, and the Void Spawn will have access to all human technology and knowledge." Admiral Harrison studied the tactical display again. "How long do we have to prepare?" "The enemy fleet will reach Mars orbit in 18 hours, Captain Morgan reported. Amy activated the ship's communication system. "This is Dr. Amy Rodriguez, to all bonded pairs in the fleet. We need volunteers for a dangerous mission that could save Earth and free millions of enslaved people." Within an hour, every single bonded pair in the Alliance had volunteered. Amy felt tears in her eyes as she read the responses. Humans and Kethvar who had become true partners were willing to risk everything for each other and for the innocent people enslaved by the Void Spawn. Dr. Price worked frantically to develop mental conditioning protocols that would help the volunteers survive the quantum resonance process. Dr. Carter and Kethvar medical specialists prepared bioenhancement equipment that could handle the massive energy requirements. Amy spent the remaining time with Vex, their connection deeper than it had ever been. They were no longer just human and alien who had shared blood. They had become something new, something that represented the best of both their species. "Are you afraid?" Amy asked him. "Yes," Vex replied honestly, "but I am also proud. In 1,000 years of fighting, my people have never had true allies. Your species has given us something we thought was impossible." "What's that?" "Hope," Vex said simply. Amy looked out at the fleet surrounding them. Thousands of ships crewed by bonded pairs, all preparing for a battle that would decide the fate of multiple civilizations. She felt the weight of responsibility, but also the strength that came from knowing she wasn't facing it alone. Through her connection with Vex, she could sense the determination of every human and Kethvar in the fleet. They were ready to sacrifice everything for each other and for the innocent people they had never met. The blood she had shared to save one alien warrior was about to become the weapon that could save the galaxy. The final battle began in the empty space between Earth and Mars. Amy stood on the bridge of the Unity, watching as thousands of Void Spawn ships emerged from hyperspace like a dark cloud blotting out the stars. The enemy fleet was so large that it seemed to stretch forever in all directions. "My God," Admiral Harrison whispered. "There are so many of them." Amy felt Vex's hand on her shoulder. Through their blood bond, she could sense his amazement too. In 1,000 years of fighting, the Void Spawn, the Kethvar, had never seen a fleet this massive. "How many ships?" Captain Morgan asked. Lieutenant Davis checked his sensors. "Over 10,000 vessels, including 50 world carriers with millions of enslaved beings aboard." Amy closed her eyes and reached out through her connection to all the bonded pairs in the Alliance fleet. She could feel Jake and Zara preparing their fighter squadron. She could sense Christina and Dex running final checks on their hybrid weapons. All across the fleet, human and Kethvar partners were linking their minds for battle. "Dr. Rodriguez," Admiral Harrison said, "are you ready to begin the quantum resonance procedure?" Amy nodded. She and Vex had spent hours preparing for this moment. They would serve as the central focus point for the resonance field, coordinating the blood bonds of every pair in the fleet. All bonded pairs prepare for synchronization, Amy announced over the fleet communication system. The response came from thousands of voices, human and Kethvar speaking together. Ready, Dr. Rodriguez? The Void Spawn fleet began its attack, with weapons that looked like living creatures. Dark energy beams lanced across space and parasite pods launched toward the Alliance ships. But the human Kethvar fleet was ready. Jake and Zara led their fighter squadron in a coordinated attack on the nearest world carrier. Their quantum-enhanced weapons cut through the enemy ship's defenses, but Amy could see that conventional warfare wouldn't be enough. The Void Spawn fleet was simply too large. Begin the resonance procedure, Amy ordered. Dr. Carter activated the bioenhancement equipment throughout the fleet. Amy felt her blood being drawn and processed through Kethvar technology, but this time the scale was enormous. Instead of just her blood, the system was processing enhanced blood from 10,000 bonded pairs simultaneously. The sensation was overwhelming. Amy felt her consciousness expanding beyond her own body. She could sense every human and Kethvar in the fleet, their minds linking together into something greater than the sum of their parts. Vex gripped her hand tightly. "Stay focused on me," he said through their connection. "Use our bond as an anchor." Amy concentrated on Vex's presence in her mind. Through him, she could feel the quantum energy building throughout the fleet. The enhanced blood from thousands of bonded pairs was creating resonance frequencies that had never existed before. "Energy levels are rising beyond all projections," Dr. Carter reported. His voice sounded distant, as if it was coming from very far away. Amy could feel the quantum field growing stronger. It wasn't just affecting the Alliance ships anymore. The energy was reaching out toward the Void Spawn fleet, touching the parasite-controlled vessels with invisible fingers of disruption. "It's working," Admiral Harrison said with amazement. "The enemy ships are showing signs of system failures." Amy opened her eyes and looked at the tactical display. Across the Void Spawn fleet, ships were stopping their attacks and beginning to drift aimlessly. The quantum resonance was disrupting the parasitic control systems that bound millions of enslaved beings. But the process was taking a terrible toll on the bonded pairs. Amy could feel the life force draining from thousands of human and Kethvar volunteers. The quantum energy required to free so many enslaved minds was pushing everyone beyond their physical limits. "Amy," Vex said urgently, "the resonance is becoming unstable. We're losing people." Amy felt several bonded pairs across the fleet collapsing as their bodies couldn't handle the energy requirements. She knew she had to make a choice between saving the volunteers and completing the mission. "Increase the resonance," she ordered. "Amy, that could kill everyone," Dr. Carter protested. "If we stop now, billions more will die," Amy replied. "We have to free those enslaved people." Amy and Vex pushed their blood bond to its absolute limit. She felt her consciousness merging completely with his, their two minds becoming one shared awareness that could coordinate the entire quantum field. The resonance reached critical levels. Across the Void Spawn fleet, something incredible began to happen. The world carriers that held millions of enslaved beings started to break apart from the inside, but instead of exploding, they were being torn apart by their own passengers. Amy watched in amazement as the freed slaves turned against their Void Spawn captors. Millions of beings from dozens of different species were fighting back after years or even centuries of parasitic control. "The quantum field is reversing the parasitic infections," Vex said through their shared consciousness. "The enslaved populations are regaining their free will." The battle became a three-way fight. The Alliance fleet continued to attack the remaining Void Spawn ships. The freed slaves fought against their former captors from within the enemy vessels, and the Void Spawn collective consciousness began to fragment as it lost control over millions of minds. Amy felt the quantum resonance reaching its peak. The energy field now encompassed the entire battle zone, touching every ship and every living being. But she also felt her own life force burning away like a candle in a hurricane. "I don't think we're going to survive this," she said to Vex through their connection. "We don't need to," Vex replied. "Look what we've accomplished. Amy looked at the tactical display and saw that most of the Void Spawn fleet was either destroyed or disabled. Millions of enslaved beings were free and fighting alongside the Alliance forces. The parasite collective that had terrorized the galaxy for thousands of years was breaking apart. "The quantum field is stabilizing," Dr. Carter reported. "Energy levels are returning to safe ranges." Amy felt the terrible pressure in her mind beginning to ease. Across the fleet, bonded pairs were reporting that they had survived the resonance procedure. Many were injured or exhausted, but they were alive. The remaining Void Spawn ships, no longer controlled by a unified collective consciousness, began to retreat into hyperspace. The freed slave populations cheered and celebrated their liberation, sending messages of gratitude to the Alliance fleet. Amy collapsed into Vex's arms, but she was smiling. Through their blood bond, she could feel his pride and joy mixing with her own emotions. "We did it," she whispered. "No," Vex replied, holding her close. "Your species did it. Humans showed the galaxy that cooperation is stronger than conquest." "Admiral," Harrison approached them with tears in his eyes. "Dr. Rodriguez, what you've done today will be remembered forever. You've not only saved Earth, but liberated millions of enslaved beings across the galaxy." Over the following days, representatives from dozens of freed species arrived in the solar system. They came to thank humanity and the Kethvar Empire for their liberation, but they also came to learn about the blood bonding process that had made victory possible. Amy found herself at the center of a new galactic alliance. Her blood bond with Vex had become the model for cooperation between species that had never imagined working together. "What happens now?" Amy asked Vex as they watched ships from across the galaxy gathering around Earth. "Now we explore," Vex replied. "The galaxy is free from the Void Spawn threat for the first time in thousands of years. There are new worlds to discover, new species to meet, and new alliances to build." Amy smiled and took his hand. The blood she had shared with an alien warrior had grown into something beyond her wildest imagination. She had saved one life and ended up saving millions. But more than that, she had helped create a new future where different species could work together as equals. The human Kethvar blood bonds were being studied and adapted by other species, creating new forms of cooperation and understanding. Amy looked out at the stars and felt excited about the future. Humanity had proven that they belonged among the great civilizations of the galaxy, not through conquest or domination, but through sacrifice and cooperation. The blood bond that had started as an emergency medical procedure had become the foundation for a new age of galactic peace and exploration. And Amy Rodriguez, the doctor who had been willing to share her blood with a dying alien, had become the bridge between worlds.